You know that April is National Volunteer Month. Well, maybe you didn't know that, but maybe you've been thinking about becoming a volunteer for some organization that speaks to your heart, your soul. Now's the time to pick up the phone, call that organization, and find out how you can be a volunteer. Because volunteering is one of the best things you can do for yourself, and it's the lifeblood of so many organizations. In a moment, you're going to meet my guest, who is part of really one of the premier volunteer organizations that you will ever know. So stay tuned. Said it's April, it's National Volunteer Month, a very important month. And so my guest today, along that vein, is Christine McKay. So hi, Christine.
Hi, Andrea. Good to see you. Long time no see.
Yes. Now, what makes you our special guest for National Volunteer Month is because you are part of the Caregiver Volunteers of Central Jersey. So why don't you introduce yourself a little better than I did? Tell everyone what you do for caregivers.
Well, thanks again for having me. My title right now is a mouthful. My official title is Grants and Data Manager or Administrator. Which basically I help write grants for the organization, and but I also manage our consumer and volunteer database, which provides us all the data that we use for grant writing, for our reports for county funding and other things. So what I do, it's behind the scenes, but it's an important piece of us telling our story to our funders and to the community. So I've worn many hats with caregivers over the years. I started 6 years ago, if you can believe it. It doesn't seem that long to me. To start off our Monmouth County satellite office.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's when we met initially. But I've worn many hats over the years. It's kind of, you know the drill with a nonprofit. That's what we do, is we wear lots of hats wherever the need is.
Many hats. Yeah.
So, but it's afforded me the ability to know our organization inside and out, and it really has become a part of me, which is why I love working for caregivers, and I love supporting everything that we do.
All right. Well, because it is National Volunteer Month, so up there, up top or on the bottom, you're going to see the website and the phone number for Caregiver Volunteers of Central Jersey. Because if you're looking for a volunteer opportunity, this is the place to go. All right. So let's just make sure that's out there. And of course, I'll put all of the contact info in the comments as well. So Christine, let's kind of start off by talking a little bit about volunteering in general, because I personally believe it's one of the best things you can do. Well, for others, but I think for you as well, the person who volunteers probably gets as much, if not more, back from being a volunteer.
That is absolutely true. Even for myself as a volunteer, that's my lifeblood, but we've heard that feedback so many times from so many volunteers. When we thank them for what they do, they're like, don't even thank me. I get so much more out of this than what I give. For me, it's just, it means so much for them. So and it's so unexpected. They, when they get a taste of it, they just want more. And it really does. I use the expression, it fills your sail.
Yeah. So there's a lot of benefits to being a volunteer. And well, I think, Christine, you're in the best position to talk about some of those.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I always say it's good for the mind, body, and soul. For the mind, there's great data out there from AARP and from other organizations that qualify or quantify that it does keeps your mind active. It helps, it helps distract you from your own problems, or at least puts them in perspective when you're helping someone who,
Right.
Who's less mobile than you, who doesn't drive, who doesn't, it wasn't able to get out or doesn't have family to support them. It really puts your own problems into perspective, and not to minimize anyone's challenges in life, but it does put things in perspective, and it helps, like, okay, my things are not as bad. I can get out there and help someone else. And it's, even there's a statistic from the National Institute on Aging that it may also lower your risk of dementia and other health issues. So in terms of helping the body, it keeps you going. It keeps you getting out there, and where you might be inclined to just sit and watch TV when someone else is counting on you, it gets you up and out of the house, and
a greater purpose
Mhm.
than watching TV.
Absolutely. And then the soul, I mean, let's just be honest. It makes you, it increases your happiness, and increases your joy in life when you're out there helping others and making someone else smile. There's no greater joy than giving someone a helping hand and seeing a smile on their face, and knowing that you're the reason for that smile.
I feel like, well, we're on the other side of COVID. We might not be 100% yet, but listen, let's be serious. The world is, not in the greatest place right now. And you can sit around, be miserable, get depressed, watch the news, or do something positive for yourself and for someone else. And I agree that it really does put your own issues, and we all have issues, but it puts them in perspective when you set aside your own stuff and you go out and you do for someone else who could be you someday. You
Absolutely.
could be that person who has that need. And I feel like it's good to experience both sides of it, being the giver and the receiver. We have to understand it's just one of the best things you can do for someone. You don't even understand how appreciative that person is. It's really an amazing thing to be a volunteer.
It really is. It's a gift that keeps on giving, and we do, we do find that our volunteers share experiences with us. Like I said, you had mentioned that they get more out of it than what they give. I mean, they're learning things from the people that they visit. All of our services are individual. So, they have the time, even if it's just a short ride to a doctor's appointment, they have that time. They might have the radio on, and there's a song comes on that they both connect with, and there's just so many little little nuance things that just happen organically, that the volunteer is gaining something from that experience, that feeds the care receiver as well, because they feel like they've accomplished something too. And they're almost like there's a exchange where they feel like they've helped the volunteer as well.
Well, let's be a little more specific now and talk about Caregiver Volunteers of Central Jersey, because let's be serious, there's so many organizations out there that you could volunteer for. And so why am I specifically talking about this one? Well, first, let me say that Caregivers has been a wonderful community partner for SCAN for many, many years. And you know what? We believe in what you do, and you service clients in Monmouth and Ocean County. And why don't you tell our listeners specifically, what does Caregivers do for people? What are the services that you offer?
So I'm glad you asked. So we've been actually providing these services for 29 years in Ocean County.
You've been around for a while.
We've and then in Monmouth County, as I mentioned, for 6. Our primary services are medical transportation, grocery shopping, friendly visiting, and particularly during the pandemic, our reassurance phone calls. have really come into play, and we're still getting quite a few requests for that, even as the pandemic is lifting. And then we have a pet therapy program called Caregiver Canines. And then we have a respite program that provides relief for the family caregivers of those with dementia or other chronic diseases. So each of these services, all of them, I should say, are provided by volunteers free of charge. And they're so vital, but at the same time, all of the services that we provide are aimed at alleviating senior isolation, with the purpose of keeping helping the homebound age in place safely and with dignity. It empowers them when they have someone else to call to get a ride to the doctors or to get some groceries, to have someone come up there, pick up their grocery list and do their shopping for them. It empowers them to maintain that sense of independence rather than always relying on a friend or a neighbor or another family member or their children. And it does lift their spirits because they have that's still that sense of independence that I can do this, and Caregivers is helping me, but I'm doing this on my own.
Now you could say, well, you could do your grocery shopping with, Instacart or any one of those things, but what that is not giving you is that human connection that you are getting from caregiver volunteers. You're getting an actual person who you're going to have a relationship with that person. And I think a lot of this too, it comes down to being able to stay in your home. Maybe you don't have any family in the area at all. There is no one to help you. So here, and I love the idea that not only do you drive someone to the doctor, but you're there for them. It's not a taxi where you just get dropped off. Nothing.
That's absolutely right.
But this is a very human connection. And and for me, that's what makes this a unique situation.
It is unique, and it's special. You think, it would be easy for someone to take an Uber ride, but our average care receiver is over the age of 80. And we have some that are in their 90s and even a handful that are over 100 years old.
So chances are they're not going to be doing an Uber.
Right. They're not super, comfortable with smartphones. Some of them do have smartphones, believe it or not, but they're not always comfortable with that. And there is a safety issue. If they use a walker or a cane, getting in and out of certain vehicles are a challenge. And just having that reassurance of someone that's going to be with you. That's gonna, with a gentle hand. We don't do any physical transferring from wheelchairs to walkers, but we do provide what we call a gentle hand of assistance. We'll help them pull their seatbelt across and help them get the door open and open up their walker for them so that they can get in and out, and that means a lot. And most importantly, I think just sitting in a waiting room with them and having someone to talk to while they're waiting to go in.
And knowing when you get out of the doctor's office that you don't have to call someone. There's your person is right there.
That's
your
right.
volunteer is going to take you right to your home. It's a very special situation. It's doing good work. And again, the phone number and the website is on the screen. And April is National Volunteer Month. If ever you were thinking about volunteering for anything, this is the time to do it. I really suggest you pick up the phone and call Caregiver Volunteers right now. Make a difference in someone's life and make a difference in your life. Yeah, for sure. Now, let's talk a little bit about the canine caregivers, because that also is a unique situation.
It really is. I mean, it's just, it's a lot of fun for the volunteer and for the care receiver that gets that visit. But it's one of those things where, you know, as people age, you know, it's if they've had a dog in their life their whole life, and then they get to a certain point where they're no longer able to keep them, it's a huge void. So having someone come once a week with their pet, and to you know, in some cases, we have all different kinds of matches with our Caregiver Canine program. I mean, sometimes it's just a little furry friend that sits on your lap and you know, gives you that warm touch and comfort. Other times we have big dogs that like to play fetch, and you know, the care receiver will sit on the couch, and by the way, the human volunteer gets completely ignored during this time, but they're okay with it. And they because it's just watching it is just so joyful, just seeing the smiles and the, you know, again, I keep going back to this word connection, because that's what it's all about. You know, it's really great, and we've used that. We've used the Caregiver Canine program even in our respite, where we have someone with dementia or other chronic disease, where they could be nonverbal, and just having the touch, having a dog on their lap and feeling the fur. It's almost an awakening, like our music program, which we'll get into also. But it's just so amazing to see how humans can connect with their pets as well. It's so beautiful.
Now, you did mention your music program, and we must talk about that. So share some things about that, because recently you had a huge event. I know Fran Pinella, who also awesome. Well, she's all about the music. And so let's talk about that program.
So our Connect Through Music program is an offshoot of our respite program. And that was, it's an intergenerational program where youth volunteers are paired with someone with dementia. And they create a playlist based on the music of the person with dementias, of the time that when they were young, the type of music that they like. They try and get information from the family and from that person when they can, to develop a playlist that they can share together. And we have these special headsets that kind of block out all of the other stimulus that could be in an environment. So that they can share that music, and it's an educational experience, both a musical education experience for the youth volunteer, but also an education in empathy and compassion that the young ones really benefit from, to be able to see and experience that connection. I keep using that word.
Well, that is the word. That is the word.
Yeah. So it's really
because music has a way of connecting like nothing else.
Right, absolutely. I remember seeing an interview with Fran early on, where it talked about you know, how the center of the brain, music touches multiple pieces of the brain. That in some cases aren't affected, like the part of the brain that Alzheimer's affects. So it's one of those things that again can cause an awakening during that time where the music is playing. They remember the lyrics, and I feel that myself even. As I get older and I hear a song from when I was a kid, and listen, I can't remember my phone number sometimes, but I can remember the word from that song back in the 70s.
That long-term information is well embedded. But
Mhm.
phone number, not so much. I know.
Right,
I
right.
think we can all relate to that. Now, for people who are watching today, and again, your phone number and the website is on the screen. I encourage you to pick up the phone, call caregivers, see if you'd be interested in either being a volunteer or possibly you might need their services. So, Christine, what kinds of things what do you look for in a volunteer? What should people know who are interested in being a volunteer for caregivers?
So, we do a lot of recruitment of our volunteers through our coalition. We have an interfaith coalition of religious congregations
Mhm.
and civic groups throughout Ocean and Monmouth County, and we find that there's always people and certain kind of group activities, or one activity a year. So the volunteers that we look for are people that are looking for kind of a one-on-one, a more individualized opportunity to volunteer. We do have we have volunteers that volunteer with us every single week, that take people to doctor's appointments and visit people every week. So I always say we have opportunities for people who have a lot of time or a little time. So ideally, someone could say, listen, I only have one day a month that I could volunteer, but I would be happy to take someone to a doctor's appointment on that one day. We have there's a lot of corporations that have give a day, get a day programs, and that would be ideal for them. We have a lot of working volunteers that are able to do grocery shopping for people on the weekends. They're doing their own grocery shopping, so they just they'll give the list of the person that they shop for and do the shopping for them at the same time. So there's a lot of opportunities, even if you only have a little bit of time. And again, it's one of those things where the connection is unique. So if volunteers are looking for that individualized connection, maybe they've lost a grandparent that they were really close with, and this becomes kind of a substitute. It's not that it's never going to replace that person, but it gives you that same feeling of being able to sit with someone who has a little more history than you do, and you can share a story. And again, it's
making a new connection. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So it's we have volunteers of all ages. The majority of our volunteers are over 60. We find that when you hit retirement, oftentimes you feel like, well, I worked all my life. I feel like there's something I still want to do. So those, so for folks that are planning for retirement, or also that are, in retirement, have been retired for quite some time, this is a great opportunity for them as well.
So there's an opportunity out there for everyone. It isn't like, it's a 40-hour week. You give what you can. And then for someone out there who's watching this, maybe you or a loved one, maybe you need to take advantage of the services from caregiver volunteers. So again, give them a call.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I feel like, what can I say? Just do it. Make the phone call, be a volunteer, utilize the service, do something good for you while you're doing something good for someone else. Feeds your soul. It's the greatest feeling in the world, right?
You won't regret it.
No, you won't regret it. You'll be doing good. And we need more of that in this world. We really do. April, National Volunteer Month. Pick up the phone and make a call. So we have been talking today with Christine McKay from Caregiver Volunteers of Central Jersey. And I hope that you take away from all of this, my listeners out there, that being a volunteer the time is right. The time is right to be a volunteer. So Christine, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you again for having me, Andrea. It was a blast.
My pleasure. So remember out there, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr, and we'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone. Bye, Christine.